Okay, so in this video we're going to cover section 5.3, which is titled Write Linear Equations in Point-Slope Form. So what's new in this section is the point-slope form. So point-slope form is going to be the new topic here. It's not really new for you because I know you've seen this before when you graphed, but we didn't really write equations just yet. So before we do examples, I wanted to remind you about the three different forms. We have slope-intercept form, which was our section 5.1 and 5.2. Now we're going to work with point-slope form. We are using this form when we are given a point, so x and a y coordinate, and we're given a slope. And then we have standard form, which we'll cover in future sections. So what I wanted to do is point out something to you. If you noticed on my slide, the y and the x are actually in black. So this y and then this x will actually stay as y and x. They will not be replaced with any numbers. There will always be an x and a y in your equation. So don't forget that. Okay. So the first skill we're going to cover is writing an equation of the line in point-slope form, given a slope and point on the line. So that's going to be the easiest type of example. First, we're going to read example number 1. Write an equation in point-slope form of the line that passes through the point for -3 and has a slope of 2. So I'm going to highlight important information. The form that I should answer in is going to be important. So point-slope form will be highlighted here. And then I have some important pieces of information. I am given a point and a slope. So what I'm going to do is write out what that means. So this is my x1, and this is my y1, and this will be my slope, so that's my letter m. So what I'm going to do is replace the letters in my form with those numbers. So first, I always start with writing down the general forms. So point-slope form is y minus y1 equal to m times x minus x1. And my y and my x will stay there. I will replace y1, I will replace m, and I will replace x1. So first, I'm going to do the replacing. So y1 is -3. My slope is 2. And my x is 4. And then I'm going to put everything else in there. So it is y minus -3. So don't forget we're going to have a double negative here, equal to 2, x minus 4. So the only thing I have to worry about is this double negative here, and it will turn into a positive. So this will become y plus 3 equal to 2 times x minus 4. You don't have to rearrange it because you specifically were asked to find an equation in point-slope form, which is this form right here. Don't forget to check that you actually have a y and an x in your equation, and then you're done. That's it. That's your form. Alright, so now pause the video and complete your try example for skill number 11 to see if you understood the material. Okay, so for skill number 12, we are actually going to now graph a linear equation given a point-slope form. So what we want to do first is extract all the important information from the equation. So I am given, what I'm actually going to do on top of this, I'm going to write the form. So the form is y minus y1 equal to slope m, x minus x1. So I have three important numbers here. I have my slope here. So the slope is 2/3. And I am given an x coordinate and a y coordinate. Okay. So first I'm going to do the y because it's here. So I had to subtract. So if this became y plus 2, so my actual y coordinate was -2. Because remember that in order for you to get y plus 2, you actually would have to do 2 minus -2. So -2 is the y coordinate. And then over here, it is just x minus 3, so my x coordinate is just going to be 3. So this right here gives you a point with an x coordinate of 3 and a y coordinate of -2. So that's going to be my starting point. So I find 3 on the x-axis because that's the x, and I find -2 on the y-axis because that's the y, and I find where they intersect. So my y and my x should meet together. So that's my point. And then what I'm going to do is use my slope to move from the point to the next one. So if my slope is 2, my rise is 2. My slope is 2/3, so my rise is 2 and my run is 3. So technically I would normally go up to over 3, but if you notice we don't have space. Slope is positive, so I know my line's going to go this way. So instead of going up and over, I'm going to go down and left. So I'm going to go down 2, so it's going to take me here, and then left 3. So it's going to be right here. And that's it. That's going to be my line. So you're going to use the point to get started, and then you're going to use the slope to get moving and move over to the next point. And that's it. That's your example 2. So this is your example 12. Graph it on any piece of paper, and then you'll have to describe me how to graph it when you enter your you try answers. So pause the video and see if you can graph this one. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next skill. We're going to go back to writing an equation of the line in point slope form, but now we're going to be given a graph with 2 points labeled. So it's a little different from the first example. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to write down the general form, because that's going to help me remember what information I will need. So my general form for point slope form is y minus y1 equal to slope times x minus x1. So I need 3 pieces of information. I need to figure out the slope from the graph. I have to figure out a point, and not figure out, but take a point and use the x and the y coordinates. And if you notice, it's 1 and 1, so that x and the y do have to go together. So I have to pick one point. Now let's just take a look at this. We want to make our life easier, so I have 2 choices. I can either use this point here, negative 1, 3, or I could choose 1, 1. I'm going to go with 1, 1 because the numbers are both positive and the numbers are smaller. So that's what I'm going to choose, but I don't have to. So I'm going to replace Okay, so we're going to use 1 for the y coordinate, and then we're going to use 1 for the x coordinate. So I replace the y1 with the 1. I replace x1 with a positive 1. And my x and y are not going to change. So y minus 1, x minus 1. But I do need to know the slope. So the slope is going to come from the graph. I'm going to figure out what is my rise and what is my run. So if you notice, I keep going 1 down, 1 over, 1 down, 1 over. So my slope is just going to be simply negative 1. So I have to use rise over run, so slope is negative 1, and that's what I'm going to be using in my equation. That's all you have to do. So once you replace the y1, the slope, and x1, there's nothing else you need to know, because you have to write your equation in slope-intercept form, which is what I have. So once you have everything replaced, you're done. That's all you have to do. What I do want to show you is that if you did not use 1.1, you can also use the other point, and it's also correct. So you can also replace things that are going to change. So now let's think about this. Whether I use the first point or the second one, my slope of the actual line will not change. So this is going to stay as negative 1, but I will be using this for x and this for y. So this will be y minus positive 3 and x minus negative 1. So it's actually going to be y minus 3 equal to negative 1, x plus 1. So both of them are going to be correct. So if you write either one on the test or quiz, that is absolutely correct. Just make sure the slope stays the same. Alright, so now it's your turn, so pause the video and see if you can get this question right. Okay, so this is going to be our last skill that we cover. It is going to include word problems, and it says model a real-world situation given a table of values. Okay, so we have example 5. I'm going to read the description. It says, the table shows the cost of visiting a working range for 1 day and 1 night for different number of people. Can this situation be modeled by a linear equation? So what I need you to understand is that a linear equation is the one that has a constant rate of change. So I'm going to write this down. So constant rate of change. So that's what you need to check in your table. So is my rate going to be constant? So look, you go 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So you're consistently increasing this by 2. So if your cost consistently increases by the same amount, it is a linear equation. So if everything is consistent, then it's going to be true. So if I went from 250 to 350, I added $100. If I went from 350 to 450, I also added $100. If I went from 450 to 550, it is also $100. And if I went from 550 to 650, it is also $100. And you do have to check all of them, because if these three are 100 but this one is not, then it's not actually going to be linear. So think of this as your rise and your run. Your rise over run should be consistent. So the cost is rising $100 for every 2 people. So rise is 100, run is 2. So it goes 100 over 2, 100 over 2, 100 over 2, 100 over 2. So it's going to be the same. Okay. So now that we checked that it's consistent, we are confident that it is a linear equation, and your explanation would be the fact that the rate of change is constant. So since it is possible to write an equation, we actually need to write it. Okay, so what this actually gives you is 2 points, and you can pick any 2 points. My number of people will be independent and my cost will be dependent, because my cost will depend on the number of people. So my point is going to be 4, 250, and my second point should be 6, 350. Okay, so first I will have to find slope. So it's going to be y2 minus y1, so 350 minus 250 over 6 minus 4, which is equal to 100 over 2, which is 50. And then you can use either one of the points in order to write point-slope form. So my point-slope form is going to be y minus, and I'm going to use this one here, so I'm going to use this for y1 and x1. So y minus 250 is equal to 50 times x minus 4. And notice that it doesn't say, okay, so that's going to be my equation, and they didn't specify what form you should be using, so I'm just going to leave it this way. Okay, so it just says write an equation, which is here. So that's your equation. Okay, so what I want you to do is try this example, and I'm going to give you a hint that it is a linear equation. So make sure that you do the second part where you have to write an equation, and make sure you explain as well when you submit your answers. All right, good luck. I think that's it.